Lawyers of Reddit. What document do people routinely sign without reading that screws them over? Story 1. Gym Contract Cancellation Issues. Gym contracts. There are constantly questions and people wondering why they can't get out of the gym contract they signed. This is either because they are contracts that last a certain length of time, and/or they failed to follow the cancellation procedure laid out in the contract. Read the contracts. Make sure you aren't signing for something that is a year long or more, with no way to cancel until that time period is reached. Make sure you know how to cancel the contract and do that. Don't call them up and ask to cancel. Don't ask the front desk to cancel. It's usually a mailed, certified letter to either the business or a third party. Story 2. Shady Landlord Lease Clause. Yep. Rented from a super shady local guy once. He had it written into his lease agreement that if anyone got hurt on the property, even from failure of upkeep of the structure, we would be responsible as tenants for damages. I laughed in his face, told him if the roof fell in on our heads he sure as hell would pay for my medical bills, and I marked it out and got him to sign it. A year later, he stole our car. Should have seen that one coming. Story 3. Unexpected repair costs in lease. I made that mistake as a college student. There was a clause stating that we were responsible for the first $100 of any repair we needed while living there. We were unhappy with that clause, because a lot of the appliances were old. The landlord explained that that was only for repairs on things we wore out, allowed to fall into a state of disrepair through improper use or failure to clean, or damaged ourselves, not for pre-existing issues or things beyond our control. Our neighbors, with the same landlord, said that they'd only had to pay for repairs when they accidentally yanked the doorknob off. Well, within the first 6 months, the ancient stove fan that we reported was smoking and making a loud noise on move-in blew up, the sink drain that we reported was rusted over on move-in broke, and the ancient AC crapped out due to internal buildup. They charged us for all 3, even though none of them were in any way our fault, considering they were all defective when we moved in. The landlord denied ever having that conversation with us. Story 4. Unfair employment contract terms. Ahahaha. Yeah, my company just came at me with a new yearly contract hiring me on for real. My probation ran out yesterday, and said, oh, it says all the same things as the probation one, just the dates are different. Yeah, no, it didn't. My retainer went from retainer plus volume to retainer plus volume. But if your volume fails to make your retainer, we pay you your retainer and deduct the difference from the next time you make over the retainer. That is, if I have a $3,000 retainer and I make $2,500 in February and $5,000 in March, I get paid $3,000 in February and $4,500 in March because they took back the $500 that I owe them for the retainer. Yeah, I didn't sign it. Said if you guys can guarantee me the work to always make over my retainer, that'd be fine. But we just went through the down season on my probation, and the retainer is not enough to cover my bills, so now I'm poor as heck. They took it back to reword it. I'm sure it'll go back and forth a few times before I sign. Read your contracts, people. Edit. Wait, I just realized you're a lawyer talking about screwing your clients over with your retainer agreement. Oh well, the story stands. Story 5. Signed lease without reading, ended up owing thousands for unaffordable apartment. I applied for an apartment a month ago and was told I'm all set for the reservation and was given a move-in date. Day before move-in comes, and they send the agreement over. I hastily signed through it all without reading it, in good faith under the assumption I was signing for the apartment I actually applied for. Little did I know, the management had taken it upon themselves to upgrade my reservation to different floor plan, one that cost $600 per month extra than the one I applied for. When I told them that was ridiculous and that I couldn't afford the apartment, they told me I was out of luck and must pay to break the lease since I've already signed it. They want 2 months' rent, totaling $2,700, and I will also not be getting the $400 security deposit back. Too long. Didn't read. Don't ever sign a contract or lease before reading it. Hopefully at least one person who reads this can learn from my mistake. Edit. Thanks to everyone replying with awesome advice. I will be contacting the State Attorney General, the Housing Board, and a lawyer. I will try and submit a written withdrawal and see if that holds up too. I signed the paper on Thursday, so excluding Sunday I should have until tomorrow night to do so. Thanks again. And shout out to the guy who inboxed me to say I'm a whiny jerk. Story 6. 18-year-old signs legal forms without reading, worries about parental control. I turned 18 recently, and my mom kind of rushed me into signing a stack of documents she got from Mama Bear Legal Forms. She explained that it was mostly just in case some medical emergency happened while I'm in college, where I'm not able to make decisions for myself. I just want to know what these documents give them control over. I am pretty sure it gave them health and finance power of attorney. How much did I screw myself over by signing these? Am I able to reverse this? Story 7. Expensive mistake, signing an installment loan without reading the fine print. So a couple months back I was short on cash and got an installment loan online. After trying a few places and getting rejected multiple times, I was kinda desperate when I came across a place that did no credit check and approved me for $700. So skimmed over the contract, seemed all legit. Payment would be $170 every 2 weeks until paid off, so I signed and received the funds the same day. Later that day I looked a little more through the contract at the final payment date and did the math and didn't add up. So then I completely read it word for word and noticed a paragraph with super fine print saying, by signing this contract, you agree to an initial enrollment fee of $1,500 on top of the $700 I borrowed. So really it cost me $2,200 to borrow, $700 plus all the interest over the last few months. Thank God the next payment is the final one, because that was an expensive mistake. Story 8. Client shocked by unread contract terms, leading to agent dismissal. I had a client who signed an offer on a property. We're a 2-contract state. $500 down with the offer. At the home inspection, I asked when she would have then next deposit of $5,000. It was due in a few days. She was shocked to find out that was even necessary. And of course it was clearly disclosed, in bold letters on the offer to purchase, she had just signed days earlier and had been verbally discussed several times. She fired me as her agent because the trust has been lost. Good for her. She beat me, firing her by about 30 seconds, because if you fail to comprehend the most basic steps in buying a home, even after we've spent months looking together, and want to blame somebody else for you having signed contracts without even reading them, you cannot be my client. Yes, Sarah, I'm talking about you. Every once in a while I worry that the world is running out of knuckleheads, and just like that my faith is restored. Story 9. Attorney found contract issues that could have screwed buyer and seller. Also, strongly consider hiring a real estate attorney to look over contract and represent your interests. Yes, this will cost you money, and it will likely be out of pocket, but they may find things that, if agreed to, could screw you over, and they may possibly save you more money than you spend to hire them. And they will often prove more useful to you than your real estate agent will. A good attorney you hire will be in your corner, representing your interests. They will not be swayed by commission. They won't compromise on the advice they give you just because they want the deal to go through quickly, even if it's a bad deal. They will tangle with a combative seller for you, and will cut through the selling agent's nonsense. If your own agent is being a flake, your attorney can put them in line, or if it's bad enough, arrange to get you out of your contract with them for non-performance. They work best if you bring them aboard before you sign anything, so be sure to do that. You might even at times think they are screwing things up over silly details. They aren't. They know exactly what they're doing. And even nitpicking on that detail could save your ass in the end. Some will also work on a fixed rate per contract, because real estate is all they do. If you're worried about cost, Call some up in your area and ask them what they will charge. They should be very upfront about it, and may surprise you on how affordable they can be. Look on Avo for reviews and referrals. Mine found things in the contract that the seller's agent put in that would have screwed me, and some things that even would have really screwed the seller. They made the extraordinary step of contacting the seller and saying, "Look, I don't and can't represent you, but if I were you, I'd talk to an attorney about this contract. It's not right, and not just for my client." The seller did, and although it took a week, a new agreement was hammered out that was fair and passed muster, and we still closed on time. Story 10. Young cashier regrets signing work policy requiring unpaid time. I'm a dumb 20-years-old female who has an entry-level job as a cashier at a local grocery store. It's a newer store, part of a large company, so I've been there since before the location officially opened, but I assume the company has an idea of how to run a store because of its other locations and popularity. Anyway, the reason I called myself a dumb 20-years-old female is because my manager gave me a paper today at work and told me to sign it and give it back to her. I read the paper, and it made me uneasy, but I stupidly assumed that I must have interpreted it wrong. The contract says that we cashiers are expected to arrive to work 5 minutes before our scheduled time in order to count money and set up the register, but we are not supposed to clock in until we're done counting. Also, once we reach our time to clock out, we are to leave the register, clock out, and then go count the money. We don't have machines to count the money for us. We do it all by hand. Also, there is no set number of coins or dollars that are to be set aside for the next register. Everyone figures out how to come up with $200 on their own with whatever they have left over in their registers at the end of the day. The contract says we will be paid for an extra 20 minutes a day, 5 minutes before and 15 minutes after work. By my experience, it can take anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes to count the money correctly. However, I enjoy math, and I know that some of my coworkers struggle with the end-of-day counting, so it may take them longer. I don't understand what the intent behind this new policy would be other than to cheat the employees out of a few more dollars. I was only able to truly understand what I had read once I had time to really think about it, and I feel like an idiot for just throwing my name on there next to everybody else's. If anyone has any advice on what to do that won't get me fired or end with me quitting, let me know. Thanks for reading my story. Story 11. Today I messed up by not reading the lease closely and now having to pay $2,000. Every time I have moved out of an apartment, it's been sufficient to email the office my leaving notice. The current lease at my old place said, "Notice must be submitted in writing under a section called Lease Termination." Perfect, so I sent the email and moved out. I didn't get a response, but I actually didn't get a response at my old place either, so I figured they just made note of it. Today, 10 days before lease end, I get an email charging me for next month's rent, $2,000. Surely a mistake. I email the office and try calling, but no answer. I double-checked the lease and, in a separate section titled Notice, it said that all notices must be sent by mail. So we never technically terminated the lease, and now we're on the much higher month-to-month plan for June. Because I told my roommates I'd take care of terminating the lease, I'm gonna have to solely pay for it. Since it's not their fault, they trusted my dumbass. Obviously my fault, and it's a huge learning moment for me. Now I'm gonna be out $2,000. That's on top of my already nearly $1,000 lease at my new place. So my limited savings are now drained. Too long. Didn't read the lease closely, and I'll have to pay $2,000 for a month of rent there, and nearly $1,000 for rent at my new place. Story 12. Today I messed up by not reading a gym contract carefully enough. Really, this was like 3 months ago, but here goes. For Christmas, I got a 3-month membership to the local UXL. I wanted a 3-month membership with personal training, as I know nothing about working out. I work with a woman whose daughter is a trainer there, and I wanted to train with her. I had to sit down with the head trainer, and the overview he gave me was 2 months in advance, then, after that, going month to month until I wanted to cancel. Fast forward to April. While checking my banking, I noticed there's a $120 charge for the personal training, after I said something to my trainer about noting wanting to renew. I talked to the guy, who's a real jerk, and he just puts on a smug grin and said, "Yeah, that was for a year. I can freeze your account and we can try and work something out." He then told me he would talk to the guy above him about getting me out of it. I was checking my banking Sunday and noticed another $120 charge after he said he was supposedly going to freeze my account. Every time I ask that guy how this negotiation is going, he keeps putting on his smug grin and telling me he will talk to him tomorrow. This is breaking me financially. I only work part-time for the being, and I have almost overdrawn my account twice because of this. Yesterday I took a good look at the contract, just to see how badly I was screwed, and not only is a year, I initialed for the automatic renewal, I only had 3 days to cancel this. I'm screwed. Too long. Didn't read. Shady, slick personal trainer sees me coming from a mile away, gets me to sign a contract I didn't read carefully enough, and now I'm locked into paying $120 a month until next February. Edit. I talked to him today and watched him put my account on freeze for 60 days. I am going to be up his ass every time I'm at the gym about this. If I am charged again next month, I will take action with the bank. I have posted this to /r/legal advice, and thank you for your advice. Story 13. Today I messed up by not reading the user agreement on TickPick. I have been using TickPick for years. I recently listed a ticket to sell on their platform and another. The ticket sold on the other platform. When I went in to delete the listing on TickPick, I could not immediately do so, as they only allow you to access their sales interface through a desktop web browser, not an app or mobile browser. As such, I had to get home and in front of a computer to delete the listing. When I did, someone had committed to the tickets. However, the sales interface gives only one option: confirm tickets. No option to deny them or cancel, like other ticketing sites. I emailed into customer service about the cancellation, and they informed me that the terms of service says they can charge up to 200% of the ticket price. I was charged $106 because I couldn't complete the sale. This is an egregiously large penalty. It was more than I bought the ticket for in the first place, so I feel like TickPick essentially just stole my money. I called in to explain the situation, and customer service was incredibly nasty to me and basically told me to stuff it. They said they used the money to replace a ticket for the customer. But A, the customer already paid them for a ticket, and B, I've been buying tickets on TickPick for years and have had tickets fall through multiple times. I have never had TickPick replace the ticket for me. I called nonsense. They were not happy about that. All in all, I should read the TOS, but needless to say, am done dealing with this cash grab of a company. Too long. Didn't read. Tried to sell a ticket on TickPick. Didn't read the TOS. TickPick charged me $106 for a canceled sale, more than I bought the ticket for in the first place. Story 14. Roommate didn't read what he was signing. How screwed are we? Throwaway, because other roommates use Reddit too. We're in Kentucky. We have 3 months left on the lease, and we have to give minimum 60-day notice that we're moving out, which we were definitely planning on, because this place sucks. Leaseholder spoke to management, told her that he needed to give notice, and she said she'd email him some forms. He got an email, opened it up, and digitally signed a whole 50-plus page lease renewal contract without reading it, thinking that it was the written notice he needed. I know questions like, "What can I do?" are against the rules, but frankly, I'm stumped. This is his first ever apartment. He's entirely unfamiliar with contracts, and well, you can see the predicament we're in. None of the other roommates have signed the contract, despite their names being pre-filled in the appropriate spots. Is the contract still valid if his is the only signature? Is there any precedent we can cite to cancel this? If he changes his mind and gives written notice of intent to move before the renewal comes into effect, will that void the new contract, or is he still liable? He's going to the office tomorrow to try and convince them he didn't actually mean to renew, that she gave him the wrong forms, but I'm not confident that will even matter. I mean, it's a contract, he signed it thoroughly, initialed everywhere, etc., etc. So, in my limited understanding, the fact that he didn't know what he was signing wouldn't legally matter. But, I don't know, are there exceptions? Story 15, parents bought a house, didn't read the contract properly. Are they screwed? I apologize for the vague/novice terms. I am still in high school and wanted to see if I could help my parents in any way. My parents are first-generation immigrants who moved here 10 years ago, and through hard work and low-paying jobs managed to save up and upgrade to a newer second home earlier this year. They sold the first one for some profit. They have never been late in payments in anything, ever. They get about $5,000 annually from my dad and mom's retirement pension when they were in the Foreign Army. When they bought their first house, they were paying the taxes themselves all at once. This worked for them because it resulted in lower monthly payments, which helped with their low-paying jobs. When purchasing the second home, this was one of their biggest concerns/point of emphasis, and the loan/title manager told them they would definitely set it up so they pay all at once. The real estate agent was present and vouches that the lady who managed the loan had agreed upon this. However, they made a big mistake of not getting an attorney or reading everything through before signing, because now the property tax is included in the monthly mortgage. Things will become very tight for them, especially the first year. I don't know if they can afford the monthly payments without cutting off basic necessities. Do they have any options? Can they fight this somehow? I would really appreciate some advice to give them. I know it's a risk for the bank, because they think my parents wouldn't be able to pay altogether. But my parents did this for almost 8 years without any issues in the previous house and have great credit. This is in Houston. Story 16. Reliable Movers Moving Company will only give me $60 for breaking my TV because I didn't read the contract. The main mover I spoke to was named Henry. After expressing to Henry how I was interested in additional insurance due to the high value of my personal computer and monitors, he assured me that I should not spend the extra money and that he would take good care of me. After moving me, when I was still unaware of my broken TV, I even tipped him and the other 2 movers a total of $60. The fact that the refund algorithm is even based off of weight is ridiculous. What if I were to own a older, lesser value TV that weighed more? I bought my TV 3 years ago, and it still retails well over $500. I've only spoke to one claim guy and he told me, based on the option that you chose of 0.60 cents per pound, I am only allowed to have a check cut for the amount of $60. When I fought back, he stated, I definitely understand your frustration with addendum options, but this is a state law. These addendums are used by every moving company in the state. The only thing I can do is honor what was signed for. My boss would also do the same. Honestly, the TV doesn't weigh 100 pounds, so really $60 is more than what is due. This is Georgia, by the way. Because I was talked out of additional insurance and didn't read the contract, am I just screwed or can I fight for more? Thanks for help. Story 17. Buyer's remorse after signing apartment lease. I recently saw a posting for an apartment on Zillow that I fell in love with. I went to see it and told myself that I needed to have it. Now, after having signed the lease yesterday, I'm experiencing buyer's remorse. My current apartment, which I have been living in for nearly 3 years, is great, but expensive. For a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, I pay $1,780, including water and sewer. Also, in this area, only fiber is available, so that's another $90 a month, plus around an average of $60 for electricity. I have a great salary, but I'm of the mindset that a higher salary does not need to equal a higher standard of living. The new apartment is smaller, much smaller. I'll have to sell some of my furniture and sacrifice some of the amenities/niceties I've grown accustomed to. Covered parking, gym, space for a desk for work. The new rent, however, is $1,520, and it includes water and sewer. Also, I'm planning on getting cheaper internet, $20 per month, and I'll probably save on electricity. I'm scared that I won't be as happy come move-in day. My rent currently would increase by $60 come January, so that'll put me in the $1,800 plus range for rent, which sounds crazy. So I'm at a crossroads. Do I pay more for the niceties, or sacrifice a bit and pay less and save more in the long run? Has anyone else experienced this? Story 18. Did I screw myself with this contract? Did I screw myself with this contract? So like most Americans, I've got a mountain of debt. Mostly student loans, but some credit card too. In my search for relief, I found a company called Financial Solutions Group. They are a debt resolution group who makes debt settlements on your behalf. When I was talking and going through the registration, they paint this great picture of lower payments and a shorter time frame. Never mention their fee rate. Then, in the contract, they bury that detail 20 pages in. So, without realizing, they charge 25% of the total debt enrolled. I signed on. Now they made their first settlement, and on my statement I see they are charging me in fees more than they even saved on the settlement. My question is, since I technically signed the contract, they used a digital sign so I don't even recall seeing this portion of the contract. Am I just screwed and have to pay it? Or is there any way to renegotiate since they never discussed the fees? Story 19. Made a big mistake signing a debt collector contract. So I was contacted by a debt collector for a debt that was from 2008. They also contacted 3 of my family members. They said they were going to take me to civil court. The amount was $1,500 from 2008. So I just signed a contract with them to make payments on the amount because they threatened to take me to court for a civil case and do wage garnishment. I felt threatened, so I agreed to the contract. After doing research I realized I made a horrible mistake signing the contract as the debt was over 7 years old and out statute of limitations. If I do not pay the debt collector now, I am guessing it will affect my credit score. Now that I have signed the contract with the debt collector, is there any way to fight this, or am I screwed and have to pay? Sorry, new to this sort of thing. Any advice is greatly appreciated. Story 20. Unexpected mortgage fine print. I actually read my mortgage documents, and so many things seemed to contradict each other, I was completely confused. I signed anyway, thinking it would be fine. Later, I realized there were clauses I didn't understand, like potential prepayment penalties, or responsibilities I wasn't aware of. It was written that way on purpose, and now I'm stuck with terms I didn't fully grasp, all because I didn't take more time to clarify before signing. Story 21. Car Purchase Arbitration Agreement. As a criminal defense attorney, I see people sign binding arbitration agreements when buying cars without reading them. They're pushed with 20 other documents at purchase, and if you buy a lemon, you're screwed. The arbitrators are paid by dealerships, making it unfair. I know lawyers who never sign these, and if a dealership insists, it's likely shady. I advise clients to walk out, but many sign without realizing the consequences, losing their right to a fair trial. Story 22. Traffic Ticket Misunderstanding. I got a traffic ticket and signed it without reading, thinking it was just acknowledging receipt. Turns out, by signing, I agreed to pay or appear in court by a certain date. I missed the deadline, and they charged me with failure to appear, a misdemeanor, and suspended my license. When I finally paid the fees, I learned paying could be seen as pleading guilty. If I had read it, I would have known to handle it properly and avoided the legal mess. Story 23. Lease Amendment Rate Hike. My lessor sent an amendment before my lease expired, saying rates were increasing and I had to sign and return it. I signed without reading, thinking it was routine. Later, I realized by signing I agreed to pay the higher rate, and they could charge me. If I hadn't signed, they couldn't enforce it, and I could have taken action. Now I'm stuck paying more, all because I didn't read and challenge the amendment. Story 24. Family regrets joint timeshare purchase after misleading presentation. During a vacation in California, a family consisting of a brother and his wife, along with the narrator and their husband, attended a timeshare presentation advertised as lasting a maximum of 2 hours on July 9, 17 days before the post. The presentation unexpectedly lasted 8 hours, causing them to miss a day of beach time, which left them feeling disappointed. In their frustration, they decided to postpone reviewing the documents until after their vacation. They were told they would receive a package and a call from the resort group within 10 days to finalize everything, but upon returning home, with the brother and sister-in-law living in New Mexico and the narrator in Arizona, they had not received any communication. When the sister-in-law tried to book a vacation in St. George, Utah, using their points at a Global Resorts resort, she discovered a $99 fee, contrary to the presentation's promise of fee-free bookings as top-tier members, except for a small transfer fee with the exchange network. Further confusion arose when she called the resort group and learned only the narrator and their husband were listed as owners, excluding her and her husband despite their joint purchase. Additionally, the credit cards they opened for the down payment, expected to offer 6 months interest-free, were misrepresented. The presentation also included photos of resorts not found in the exchange network or the resort group properties, and they encountered unexpected fees everywhere. Feeling regretful, they contacted customer care, who opened a case and asked for photos of the signed documents and a detailed description of their complaints. After reading previous posts online, they sought advice, noting their situation differed, as they did not review the contract within the 10-day rescission period. They are now looking for help to get out of the contract and have connected with a legal firm for assistance. Story 25. Regret over agreeing to a settlement without signing. I agreed to a settlement right before a change of custody trial but have not signed it yet. 3 days later, I'm sick with regret and wondering if there's anything I can do. The settlement was drafted by the guardian ad litem, and neither of us have signed it. In court, my petition and the other party's order to show cause were marked as withdrawn in contemplation of settlement. I feel like I ended up giving up time to make the whole thing go away, and got nothing out of the deal except for a light version of a Shreve order. I believe if we went to trial, I could get residential custody and not have to pay child support, given the case law and the other parent's actions to restrict and damage my relationship with my daughter. However, the settlement doesn't end the constant court fighting, as the other party will likely file more orders to show cause, and I'll have to respond. I want a settlement that's more even-handed and palatable, possibly with sole custody and financial support to the other parent, with conditions to stop court and child protective services battles, but I'm unsure if that's possible. I'm considering talking to my lawyer for more details or getting a second opinion, but I'm worried about finding someone close to trial. Story 26. Regret over signing a 12-month massage membership contract. I was stressed with finals and work, so I decided to get a massage to unwind. After the first massage, which I enjoyed, the business asked if I wanted to sign a contract for a $60 monthly membership. Assuming it was like a gym membership where I could cancel anytime, I signed it without reading the terms. By the second month, I enjoyed the massage less and tried to cancel, but they told me I was locked into a 12-month contract. Now, I'm wondering if this is legal, if they can make me pay when I no longer want their services, and what happens if I stop paying. I'm in Texas. Story 27. Employer wants me to sign a contract that might restrict my other endeavors. I have been working with a company in California, United States for several years as an independent contractor, and they now want to switch me to an official employee. I was okay with that, even though they have been treating me like an employee, long-term consistent work, same kind of work, training and a direct boss that oversees everything, no independence whatsoever, without any of the benefits. The contract includes clauses that concern me. I must sign any other documents they put before me, and if I don't, I appoint them attorney, in fact irrevocably, to sign the documents if I do not sign within a certain amount of days. They also want permission to deposit money into my account, as they always do, but also want the power to take money from my account. Additionally, the contract states I cannot pursue any commercial endeavors outside of them, which affects my work as a writer with intellectual properties I have been developing for years. The company is not associated with writing, but is in a similar industry, and the clause seems broad enough to cover all of that. This also applies to the attorney-in-fact clause, which, from what I understand, means they would own my IP intellectual property. They can also dictate where I work, and although I have been working remotely for years, they have an office out of state, which is out of the question for me, and the wording doesn't mention remotely or guarantee that I can continue as I was before. I feel like the contract is very broad and does not benefit or protect me in any way, and I am not gaining anything from signing. I was okay as an independent contractor. It also says that I signed this of my own free will, but I know if I don't sign it, I will lose my job, which I am dependent upon for most of my income. I am not sure what I can do. I don't want to sign a contract that I will regret later, because I do have other endeavors that I am pursuing that are finally starting to take off and may pay in the future. Story 28. Scammed by Priority Services, LLC, after signing without reading. I received a legitimate-looking letter in the mail from Priority Services, LLC, and, after ignoring it, they contacted me consistently, using various Las Vegas-based numbers, one showing a caller ID of Student Department. When I answered, they used social engineering, knowing my social security number, which made it seem like they had obtained it from other loan servicers. They created a time-dependent scenario, pressuring me to start the process immediately by paying a $1,000 fee for servicing. I fell for the scam and signed their agreement without reading it. Ahua's lookup showed the domain was registered through a domain registrar with no registrant name listed, only a privacy service, a subcompany, offering privacy services, making it nearly impossible to find the actual owner. Their address was listed as a virtual office space in Las Vegas, likely not their actual operating location. After realizing it was a scam, I disputed the charges with my bank, claiming the company was illegitimate and used deceptive tactics, which allowed me to get back the money transferred to them, showing their agreement held little to no weight. However, the experience left the status of my loans uncertain. I filled out and mailed consolidation and income-driven repayment forms to an approved student loan servicer. But after months, I have yet to receive correspondence from this new servicer. I believe Priority Services LLC are fraudsters set up to abuse student loan repayments for profit until shut down. Story 29. Tenant wonders if they can enforce a 12-year lease mistakenly signed instead of 12 months. A tenant in New York City received and signed a lease that was intended to be for 12 months, but was mistakenly drafted as a 12-year lease by their landlord. The tenant, noticing the error after both parties had signed, asked on Reddit if they could legally hold the landlord to the 12-year term, potentially avoiding rent increases for that duration. The lease document, already executed, lacked an explicit end date, only stating it would start when the lease ends, with a checkbox indicating year checked. Commenters advised that due to the obvious error, known to both parties, it was unlikely a judge would enforce the 12-year term, citing legal principles like, quote, meeting of the minds and Scrivener's error. They suggested the tenant negotiate with the landlord to correct the lease, either through an addendum or a new document, to avoid potential legal disputes and maintain a good relationship. The tenant, expressing love for their building and place, had already contacted the landlord to fix the mistake, aiming to stay on good terms. This video does not promote illegal activity. Stories are shared for commentary and education.